Welcome to Feeling Seen, the podcast about the movies and the characters that make us feel seen. If nothing else, you absolutely know my guest today as half of one of cinema's great duos. Bill S. Preston Esquire of the iconic Bill and Ted franchise. What you may or may not know is that Alex Winter has been acting professionally since he was literally a child. He's an extremely accomplished writer and director of both documentary and narrative films, and even after an entire lifetime in the business, he still has so many projects going on right now that it is hard to keep track. He came to talk to us about feeling seen by another prolific entertainment figure of a bygone era, Buster Keaton, the silent film pioneer whose physical dexterity and comic genius shaped cinema forever. So let's dive into it. My conversation with the singular Renaissance man, Alex Winter. My esteemed co-host today is a veteran of so many sides of the camera. In front of it, you may know his work, of course, from the Bill and Ted franchise. You may also know him from the movie Freaked, which is the reason for the season that brings us here today, and from his directing work. You might know him from features such as Adulthood, episodes of the excellent series Blue Mountain State, the movie Fever, and documentaries such as Zappa, Showbiz Kids, The Panama Papers, Downloaded, The YouTube Effect, A Chronicle of Our Times, a pop culture figure for the ages, The Lost Boys we didn't even mention. Alex Winter, what else do the people need to know about you before we get started here today? Besides your play Waiting for Godot that you're doing on Broadway with Keanu Reeves. Goodness.
Yeah. I'm in New York now doing, Keanu and I are doing the Beckett play together at the Hudson Theater until January 4th. We opened a couple weeks ago. It's been going great. It's a monster of a play to do, but it's been very gratifying. So.
I have listened to you describe it as basically a mental, emotional, and real physical sprint that takes you guys in every night.
It is, yeah. Yeah, every show is you leave everything on the stage, and some days you're doing that twice. So it's it's a beast of a play, but there's a reason why it stood the test of time, and it's beautifully written and has a lot to offer. Both the actors doing it and I dare say the audiences as well. So it's been good. The audiences have been really engaged and with it and kind of deep in the run with us. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, to the point that you said about the test of time, Freaked is, I believe we're on the 30th anniversary of that movie now? And
at least. I mean, I directed that with Tom in 1992.
92, my God. Okay. That's I remember watching it when I was little, so that's how old I am as well. Well, to the test of time, the character that you picked to talk with in our framework, and the movie that is has a 4K restoration out now, I believe, and then you're working on stage with Keanu. A note that I wanted to ask about was, to that point of time, what does engaging in a play like Godot, how does it open up avenues of performance and connection on stage with somebody you've built a rapport with over the course of decades?
That's an exceptional question, because it kind of changes night for night. The play is like a box of riches that has no end. So it's kind of new every time you do it, which could be disorienting for actors because you really don't ever feel like you're just, which is good for the audience. You never just walk out on stage and do the show. You really have to commit 100%, and you really don't know where it's going to take you. And then it is a play about two very old friends. It's a play about two very old friends who performed together probably at some point. In Beckett's, when he wrote it, probably would have been vaudeville, turn of the century. But but to your thing about time, it's a play about time and about being unshackled from time, which is interesting considering what Keanu and I did as Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing for us. We have our friendship, which we've had our whole lives, which is obviously substantially different from how we're known, and who we are as Bill and Ted. There's goofy aspects of us that are similar to Bill and Ted, but we are not those guys. So we have kind of our friendship. We have the characters that we've played, which we feel a real kinship with the Bill and Ted characters. And now we have these guys. And sort of all three of those people show up on stage. It's inescapable. But it's a very intimate play, and we find kind of new pockets of things and it's helpful, I would say, to do this play with someone who you've known this long. I think because we perform together, and have it's kind of like being in a band. He and I are kind of like a rhythm section. We've sort of always said that. We both play bass, which is amusing, but
Wild Stallions, a bass heavy enterprise, a bass heavy enterprise,
a bass only enterprise, and
which honestly makes sense.
Yeah, I mean it's very Bill and Ted, but we we know how we have a very easy rhythm with one another. We can finish each other's sentences. We have a way of getting into a pattern, a rhythm, whether it's comedic or dramatic, which has been very helpful for this play because this play is a bear. And I do prefer when I see it, when I feel like, even if it's manufactured, because you can act this too if you're good enough, I guess. But I do, when I see this play and the two leads have real chemistry, it makes all the difference in the world. The play can live or die based on that. So I feel like that was a bit of a toehold we had going in.
Well, and I was so interested in the character, the character that you brought to discuss of Buster Keaton. We haven't had someone go back that far yet, and you suggested specifically the General and Sherlock Jr. Sherlock Jr. Yeah. And I had seen Sherlock Jr. I had never seen the General, so fortunately, I thank goodness for people who upload high quality things on YouTube because these old treasures are findable, and it was so fascinating too, because I think of the roles that are perhaps like highest up on the awareness chart for what you've done, and there's such a physicality to those roles, including Freaked, including Bill and Ted. Like I think of Bill S. Preston Esquire, like holding that pose and putting his arm up, and just the physicality that comes with playing this like San Dimas guy.
You too will do whatever I tell you to do from now on. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Dude.
What?
Yes, dude, sir.
What?
Yes, sir, sir, dude.
Get down and give me infinity.
And then Freaked is just like an unbelievable spectacle of physical performance from everybody that's going in that movie that is acting through and with the unbelievable prostheses that are used in that film.
Who's going to be Nosy the Nose Man? What? Cowboy!
Annie!
The bearded lady! How you doing? Sockhead! Hi! The eternal flame! Fire in the hole! Yeah! Rosie the pinhead? The hideous frogman! And of course, in the center square, Mr. Paul Lynn!
And so I wanted to hear about you connecting with this, I mean, the physical actor to end all physical actors in Buster Keaton.
Yeah, and Gatto is extremely physical. It's and especially the way we're doing it. And the bowler hats were based on Laurel and Hardy, and Beckett was a big fan of the Marx Brothers and huge fan of Buster Keaton, and actually made a film with Buster Keaton later in both of their lives. But for me, Keaton was my way into the movies and probably forged my path forward life-wise. I was a little kid when I got introduced to him. I was living in St. Louis. I was from London, but my family, we moved to St. Louis. My mother taught dance at Washington University, and my dad ran a dance company in the Midwest. So I came from a family of modern dancers. So I came from a very physical family. I started dancing at around age 3. I was a professional actor by around 9 or 10. I was a song and dance kid. I ended up on Broadway through all my entire teens, middle school through high school.
I read you saying that like by the time you'd got to the Lost Boys, you had almost retired from acting. Like it was almost like you had retired once. You'd gone to NYU, and then getting to Lost Boys as a teenager was like I guess like every time I'm out, they pull me back in kind of thing. You were already on to next career.
20, I think. Yeah, I was 20 years old when I booked that. I thought I was done acting, even though I love it. I was immersed at NYU Film School when I was working on directing and writing, and I booked that. And Joel Schumacher said, "Look, you can graduate from NYU, or you can come be in a big Warner Brothers movie. It's up to you." And I said, I'll see you in LA. And I'm very glad I did. I have no regrets about that whatsoever. It was one of the highlights of my life, and it set me on my path career-wise. But I was a little kid, and as my babysitter was the campus movie theater at Washington University, and I would sit and watch movies there. And I was really into like old Hitchcock movies and Chaplin and Fred Astaire. But when I saw the Keaton, I think it was The General first, which is one of the greatest movies ever made, I think. And
one of the great action movies, no question about it. You watch this, and this is high octane cinema. What they're pulling off in this movie,
no
unbelievable.
CGI, everything done for real. Like this massive train stunt. Everything had to be built. Everything had to be done for real. Incredible physicality. But I think this idea of what Keaton does that no one else does, I think. And Harold Lloyd didn't do it. I don't think Chaplin did it in this way. It doesn't mean they're better or worse, just different, right? Your things about feeling seen. So like what I connected with was Keaton had brought all of this kind of inner life with him into these characters. So you had these movies that had these huge effects, huge physical performance by him, but a lot of pathos. Like you actually care about him as a person, and you feel like it's not a put on. Like you're really getting. I mean, Charlie Chaplin, who was the towering genius of that time. Of course. The Little Tramp was a character. It wasn't Charlie Chaplin.
Right.
Keaton really brought himself to these films, and you really felt like you were getting a real sense of who he was. And I know that when I first auditioned for Bill and Ted, like the kind of work I was doing back then with my acting was very Keaton influenced in terms of like, how do I bring myself to this hyper physical comedic stuff?
Yeah.
And
this is so broad. Like where do I put this? Yeah.
Yeah. And how do I not make it so broad? How do I manage to get it to be a bit more personalized? And I think the reason Keanu and I booked that was that coincidentally, and I think it's part of the reason we became friends, we came to that first audition with the same perspective on the characters that we did not discuss beforehand because we didn't know each other. And we found ourselves in that audition, and we both came from theater, and we both were into Shakespeare and legitimate drama and things like that. But we both kind of brought ourselves to these guys who are not at all who either of us are. I'm not a Valley guy at all. I was London, New York, Midwest, and had come up doing theater and not a Valley guy. So for us, the Bill and Ted characters were played sincerely. They weren't, and a lot of the actors that I was paired with, understandably, like no judgment against them, were playing them very broad. Like just like
on the page, I'm sure you would look at that, and the snap instinct would be like arch big.
Yeah, I'm just going to be huge. I'm going to be like Spicoli and fat. I mean, and I think what Sean Penn did with Spicoli was Sean Penn is brilliant.
Spicoli's iconic. Spicoli's iconic.
He's gonna kill you, and he's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill us. Hey, man, just be glad I had fast reflexes. My brother's gonna shit. Make up your mind, dude. Is he gonna shit or is he gonna kill us? First he's gonna shit, then he's gonna kill us.
Yeah, and I think, and that's not a broad comedy, so it's a very different animal, and he had the ability, what Amy Heckerling was doing with that was playing it very grounded. The Bill and Ted movies are time travel comedies. They're not grounded. They're more like Python. And so Keaton was kind of my key, was like, okay, well, Keaton did these not grounded, very gigantic things. And that was the key for the work that Tom Stern and I were doing, the Idiot Box, the show we had on TV, What Became Freaked, which was basically the Idiot Box movie. It was written by Tim Burns, Tom, and myself, and I acted in it, and Tom acted in it, and most of the actors in Freaked were also in the Idiot Box, like John Hawkes and Lee Ehrenberg and people like that.
Randy Quaid doing to that point in my life the most upsetting performance I've ever seen. Like he haunted me. He haunted me for years. Like I Freaked was a movie I wanted to watch a bunch of times, and it made me so uncomfortable. I was like, do I want to watch it? And then I would always end up watching it because it was just so. God, this I don't think Rob Zombie exists without Freaked. We don't get House of a Thousand Corpses without getting Freaked first.
Yeah.
I made you, and I can break you. You think I made you strong? Ha! I've got my DNA cranked so high, you won't know what hit you. I'm a wrecking machine. think you crushed my spinal cord.
It was a swing for the fences. You know, I used all the capital I had on the success of Bill and Ted 1 and 2 to get that made. And I believe in it greatly. And it was an opportunity to make a film that was kind of a different time in many ways. And, you know, grew out of the style that Tom and I were doing at that time. So it was organic to us. But there was nothing in Hollywood remotely like it. And which is why the studio didn't really know what to do with it. And it took 30 years to grow in cult status to this amazing restoration that Draft House and Giant has just done. And this, you know, incredible thing that Umbrella has put together for us with the movie, with interviews and books. And we went back to the original negative and did a full restoration. But, you know, doing work in prosthetics becomes, in my opinion, it becomes even more important to ground yourself.
That was what I was going to ask about that. Like that notion of like the human within the, like, because you are in a like outrageous half like man.
You got to push yourself through a couple of inches of foam and actually show up. And this film that I just did with Shudder, Destroy All Neighbors.
Destroy All Neighbors. Yeah. I know a number of people who worked on Destroy All Neighbors.
Yeah. And Bill Corso, who did my makeup in Freaked, came and did, and he's an Oscar-winning master. He's probably, in my opinion, the greatest living artist of that type doing that work. It was Gabe Bartolos' design, and Gabe is amazing, and Bill did the applications like he did for me on Freaked. And it was similar. It was like, how do I get myself through, you know, 3 inches of foam to actually be a human being that people can connect to? And Keaton is always my North Star. I just feel like he is probably the reason I make movies and wanted to be in the business and you know, have had a career that can look like a weird hyphenate to people, like, oh, you do docs, you do directing, you do writing, you do acting. To me, I look at Keaton, I'm just like, he's just an artist, right? I'm just an artist who works in this field. I don't think of myself in a bifurcated way. And I don't have to write and direct everything I do. I didn't write and direct Destroy All Neighbors, and obviously didn't write Dado. But I do find that Keaton comes through in almost everything I do as a North Star for me. And I feel like he really exemplifies a kind of self-reflective, the world can be chaotic, and yet we're all in it together. There's a compassion in Keaton. There's a kind of there's a sadness there, I find, even though there's a joyfulness and whatever.
There's a real sort of melancholy in his set face. And you, like, because you watch it, like, both of those movies, like, for the bigness of them and, like, the incredible in Sherlock Jr., the going in and out of the movie theater screen, and then, obviously, the unending train gags that are happening in the general. He's a lovelorn man who his his inciting incident is, I need the woman I love to either see me or find out the truth of me. And you see that in his stillness. And there's so much stillness to his performances. And that was something I was going to ask you about specifically, was like the stillness amid the madcap of a Keaton performance.
For me, it's been a real key for playing Vladimir and Gatto, because Gatto, the way I'm coming at this character, he alternates between extreme bursts of physicality, which are quite big. Believe me, my body is paying the price for it.
We don't stay 20 forever.
No, we really don't, or 40 or 50 for that matter. So, but it is a combination of bursts of physicality with incredible stillness that is anchored to something emotional. And look, there's other actors that do this. It's just that, you know, the one for me that I feel the most affinity with my whole life has been Keaton. There's dance in that, there's cinematic invention in that, there's human drama in that. It's you know, it's also about a human being trying to understand the world and their place in the world. And it's funny that what you just said, and I know it's the name of your podcast, so it's also doubly funny, but it is about being seen. And it is, I mean, Gatto literally over and over and over again, we talk about, have you seen me? Am I seen? Do you see me? Does God see me? Does Estragon see me? Did you see these other people? Are they even there? Am I even here? Like, I have a monologue at the end of the play where my character kind of breaks down and doesn't know if he's seen. And I think that, and Beckett was entranced with Buster Keaton. And I think this notion in modern times of being seen. And I think that as a kid, there are different things that I know, sure, because of what your podcast is about, you've encountered this in much more tangible, kind of almost socio-political ways, like marginalized communities,
Sure.
right? People who are literally oppressed and kept from being seen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a straight white middle class American guy. My demographic is too seen. Right?
Hyper seen. We are hyper seen.
We could be less seen and everything would be fine. But I think the reason that Keaton is a guide for me is that it doesn't matter who you are. Finding your place in culture and in the world is a challenge, and that's why it can go the wrong way, right? You can decide I'm going to be seen by falling in with like a mob or like a group that is abusive or oppressive or whatever, and like I will gain power from that group. But usually the motive for that is a very painful, almost childlike desire to be seen that is unfulfilled. So if one can find a healthy, functional way to be seen, and I think what was lucky for me, because my life was, I was a child actor, I was in show business, I was subject to a lot of very intense stuff, some of which was very bad.
Sure.
And I think that what really helped ground me was that I found play through people like Keaton and Python and other types of things that I felt affinity to that made me feel seen, and I always did it. And it even if I was like, because when I was a little kid, before I was in show business, and I mean little, like 7, 8, 9.
So you'd have to be real little at that point.
Yeah, I was making home movies in St. Louis, like Buster Keaton style movies with all my friends on 8mm film, and that made me feel seen. And like the idea of play, whether it was, I didn't need like lots of eyeballs. I didn't need like to be on TV, or like eventually I did find my way into professional acting because it was what I wanted to do. But it wasn't like that's what I needed to be seen. Like, oh, I need 20 million Instagram followers. Oh, I need to be on a giant hit show.
Yeah.
No, I just needed to be able to express myself through my work in this way, whether it was off the professional stage or on. And so I think if you're lucky enough to find at whatever age, right, it doesn't matter when you do, an outlet for yourself that allows you to be seen that is healthy. I have kids. I have 3 boys, and that's just been my thing with my kids, for both my wife and I. It's just like, we don't really care what you do.
Yeah.
As long as you are doing something that kind of actualizes you and gives you some sense of connection to the world. That's, I think, the whole game, right?
It's time for a break, but I'll be right back with Alex Winter. Then at the end, I will have one quick thing before I go, in a total tone shift, about The Devil Wears Prada 2, which we got a teaser for like a week ago, but I'm weighing in on what I need to see from number 2 to make it a worthwhile sequel. So stick around for this very important take.
Hey, I'm J. Keith Van Stratton from Go Fact Yourself, and I'm here with Max Fun Member of the Month, Josh Mentor, who has been a Maximum Fun member since 2016. Hello, Josh.
Hey, J. Keith, how you doing today?
I'm so well, and thank you so much for being a listener and supporter of our show. What made you decide to support Max Fun in general and to support our show, Go Fact Yourself?
Jordan Morris on Jordan Jesse Go has a thing that he likes to say, which is, you tip your bartender $1 a beer, you tip your podcaster $1 a month. I get way more use out of Max Fun podcasts than I do like Disney Plus or Netflix.
Well, it's something we very much appreciate. And by the way, when was the last time Netflix selected you as a member of the month?
Exactly.
Josh Mentor, congratulations, and thank you again for being the Max Fun Member of the Month.
Thanks so much, guys.
Become a Max Fun member now at MaximumFun.org/join.
Walking About is the podcast about walking. It's a walkumentary series where I, Alan McLeod, and a fun, friendly guest go for a walkabout. You'll learn about interesting people and places and have the kind of conversations you can only have on foot. We've got guests like Lauren Lapkus,
I figured something out about this map, like how to read it.
Betsy Sidaro.
I had no clue. That's awesome and nuts.
John Gabris.
This is like great first date for like broke 20-somethings, you know?
And more. Check out Walking About with Alan McLeod on Maximum Fun.
I think it's so interesting you tying together like the notion of like as long as you find your pathway to connection through the world and the talking about that. I think that sort of core human drive to feel seen or perceived and how so much of your career has also been built around documentary work. And I wanted to hear about like knowing that those are like topics that you're clearly alighting upon. Where does that sort of like the endeavor of allowing for perception, the endeavor of exposing, of discovery, did that pull start to come in, particularly for things that were kind of unless you were really involved in them, like shadowy thing, like downloaded. That might sound like oh, of course it's a notion we're all well familiar with today. Download speeds. Call your internet provider. They'll tell you your download speed. But at the time, you were talking about coming up through Napster and the revolution of things that we could instantly put in front of us, pulled from this imperceptible mass of the web. And then later on, you did the YouTube effect as well. Where did that notion of putting things in front of others from behind the camera, factual, journalistically, to be perceived, become a drive of yours?
Well, I'm a writer-director, so my docs are very narrative-driven in their way.
Mm-hmm.
Napster, my first documentary, grew out of a narrative feature that I sold to Paramount and wrote there, and then everyone at Paramount got fired, and my film went into what's called turnaround, and
right.
I realized it was never going to get made. But I wrote the movie, and I spent so much time with Sean Fanning and everyone involved. I thought, this is an incredible story that needs to be told. And it's interesting because with Sean, who's a very dear friend of mine, and he came to Gatto the other day, actually, I felt like Sean wasn't seen. I felt like there was a Fanning that I knew that I could see even before I got to know him while Napster was still going on. I was very taken with who he was and what he was trying to do. And I identified with a 19-year-old kid thrust into the spotlight who was being completely misperceived by the media and misjudged and mischaracterized. And
for whom I'm sure it was advantageous for large media interests to characterize him in a certain vilifying, damning way.
100%.
Because of the effect that it was having on their industry and the way it would change everything forever.
Yeah, he was being branded a pirate, and he was a very sensitive kid, and he came from a very poor, very tough, Irish-American Boston background and had grown up with social services and a lot of very, very hardcore stuff. And so I just recognized when I saw him on the cover of Time, I was like, this guy's got there's a lot of pain in there and there's a lot of non-understanding. And I wanted people to understand what Napster actually was, what they were trying to do and what it was. And he said to me when we made the doc, it was very beautiful. And it took 14 years of working on it for it to finally get made and come out. And we were at this premiere at South by Southwest, and it was received very well. And he's like, this is the first time I actually feel seen. This is the first time I feel like who I am and what I actually was trying to do has been shown to anybody. And that was 100% my mission, and not in I'm going to do this guy a favor way, but sure. I felt the story was very important. And I felt that the micro of it, this revolutionary technology, but this very human person at the center of it who was just trying to connect the world together, who so desperately wanted to be seen. He'd grown up, running from social services and living out of motels and feeling too poor for to have a proper job and to have a life. And then having massive success and massive failure and being vilified. It just was it kind of became kind of a mission for me. And I enjoyed the process so much I kept going. And my docs do tend to be about exposing some aspect of culture or a person within culture that I don't feel has been accurately or appropriately assessed, whether it's the effect of technology on culture, which is what the YouTube effect was about, or Zappa, which is what a character who I felt really wasn't properly understood. And I set out to try to kind of unlock who he was in a way. So I think it is a driver for me. I think the notion of the importance of recognizing who people are at their essence and the importance of kind of paying that forward and doing that for yourself has been a driver for me through a lot of my career.
Do you find that, like, because I feel like you would have a sort of like, there's a specific vein tap-in that you would have to that in the industry that you've been in and the kinds of like outsized pop culture roles that you have had. You also made Showbiz Kids, which is a documentary about like showbiz kids, child stars. And so has it been a sort of process of your own sort of internal expose to align with a greater public perception of you that is perhaps caricature size compared to the Alex Winter that is buddies with Keanu, and not in a like we sit around with all our famous friends we've accumulated over the years, but just like two guys have known each other since the 80s kind of way?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, Showbiz Kids, more than any other film I made, was about my life. And it was an autobiographical film that used other people to tell my story in a way, because their story was my story. And we all had the same story, whether it was a baby Peggy who was 100 years old when I interviewed her and she was the biggest child star at the turn of the century, or, Cameron Boyce, who sadly, tragically passed away, who was, had 100 million Instagram followers and was a giant Disney star in present day. So all of our stories were identical pretty much. And none of us felt seen, right? Properly, truly. Other than by our closest friends or whatever. Sure. It didn't mean we were all crippled or miserable or anything. It just means that your public perception is not at all who you actually are. Some of that stuff gets worked out through my work, but most of the time I've done so much personal work. I'm so at ease with the disparity between my public perception and who I actually am. I feel for people who are much bigger stars than me, even like Keanu, who I know really well, who's like, his public perception is so completely not who the guy is, which is like, how could it be? Like, it's impossible.
Who could that guy possibly be if that was true?
Exactly. And it's like, no, he's not Buddha. I hate to tell you, but, he's great. He's a very sweet guy, but he's not Buddha. So it's, that can be a very stressful way to live. But it's not just celebrity, right? I think every human being on earth deals with this. And I also think much more than celebrity, marginalized communities deal with this in a very intense and stressful way on a daily basis, where they're viewed and judged for not at all who they actually are. So, those things do interest me. And those themes interest me. And like even the film Adulthood, which just came out, is really about the facade of normalcy. I call it kind of a suburban Macbeth story, because it's just cul-de-sac suburban house, everything's normal, but
the perfect tableau on which to paint the perversion of normalcy, the suburbs.
Exactly.
Incredible.
Yeah, and Kaya Scodelario and Josh Gad play brother and sister, and she's, supposedly the perfect mom, but she's suffering greatly and is really oppressed and really not able to live the life that she has always wanted to live. And because it's a black comedy, things go terribly, terribly, terribly wrong. Sure. In almost a Buster Keaton-y way, because very physical, the violence in this movie, but it is really also about this notion of like what we think people are and who they actually are.
Well, I wondered because I've read you talking about like as an actor you have a sort of pathway to working with actors where there can be a trust of an awareness of each other's jobs. Like you've been here, you've been in the seat, what I'm doing. With the way that Keaton is such a grounding element for you, I suppose if you're making something that involves a lot of like the violence perhaps gets very physical in adulthood, how does he work into how you sort of process your direction toward actors? Like, do you feel echoes of him in how you coach through actors or find a moment with them?
Yeah, I think that I'm always looking for, it's kind of what you said. I'm always looking for the point of stillness.
Yeah.
Like with whatever's going on, and it usually can be chaotic, even if it's a scene with two people talking in a kitchen, right? There can be chaos within the drama of whatever is happening or driving that scene. What is the stillness? What is their actual point of truth at the heart of who they are as those characters and as those actors? And those two things should intersect. And honestly, it informs my documentaries too, because I'm always looking for that point of stillness within my documentary subjects. And, someone like Sean Fanning is very, very, very cagey and very private. And when I sat down to finally interview him, he was so still 10, 12 years later, still so shell-shocked from the way he was perceived and interviewed.
Wow.
But I got these beautiful still interviews out of him. And I just sort of waited and waited and waited until we got him. And he was so kind of freaked out by that. Like 6 or 7 months later, he called me. He's like, I was kind of tired that day. I'm not sure. I think I'd preferred if we could redo those interviews, like in a more environment. I was like, Sean, you got to take my word for it. Like, we captured you.
Yeah.
Like the Sean I know, the quiet Sean, the stillness, the heart, you, we got that. You do not want to redo that. Take my word for it. It's very beautiful. So whether it's a doc subject or working with an actor, I think that's what you're looking for. And I think that, to me, there's a famous moment in Keaton. I mean, there's so many, but even in the general, like there's, shots of him sitting on the back of a train, just like.
It was crazy watching it being like, I have seen so many of these pieces because they come up in compilations, they come up in tributes, they come up in exemplars of like how cinema began and building the language of cinema today. I was like, my God, it's all here. The language is all here.
Yeah, and the reason that it has lasting power and that you see more of him in that than you see, say, Harold Lloyd, who I also think is a master, but is because of that stillness. Because when there's that guy sitting on the back of a train that's like taking off, you identify with him. You don't feel like you're getting a character.
Yeah.
You don't feel like he's someone hiding behind a persona. As much as I love Chaplin, and I do, I always feel like Chaplin is playing the little tramp. I don't feel like he's exerting so much control over that guy. And Keaton is like, nope, I'm taking all the control away. I'm literally just bearing my soul. And it's like, and his career did eventually die because it was like not sustainable in a way to do what he was doing. But like for that supernova burst of time that he was going, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I know that I have to let you go, but I must tell you that we have had the two directors who made the movie Novocaine, they picked as their feeling scene characters Station from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. They picked Station.
That is demented.
And it was seamless. Like the two separate kind of doddering entities who come together to form a super mad scientist. I was like, wow, this isn't even a stretch. We're not even having to pull blood from a stone on this one. So Station has been out there for filmmakers, giving them representation.
Good. Now I feel less obtuse for choosing Buster Keaton, so that's good.
Thank you so much for your time today, Alex. I truly appreciate you being here. This is I wanted to make this happen so much. It's a privilege to talk to you with the expanse of what you've done in your career, your ability to evolve, your ability to see, your desire to see and to share. It just means so much as somebody who has been on the narrative and nonfiction side of things and as well. And I feel seen by that, the desire to not inhabit one world, but any world that I wish to bring more light to. So thank you for your work and what you do.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's really great to be on.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much to Alex Winter. It's just so inspiring to talk to somebody who, being in a profession for such a long time, reinvents themselves and evolves through various disciplines that encompass it as a big umbrella, and who travels around into so many facets of how it exists, because it just, I don't know, it's the renewal, it's the creative drive, it's the renewed, the continual excitement to challenge oneself, to take up a new discipline. And I don't know, it's really cool. It makes me feel really good, especially as someone who grew up as a very big fan of Bill S. Preston Esquire. And you can get yourself a ticket to see Waiting for Godot on Broadway before it closes in January. You still have time. Or you can get yourself something a little easier to procure, a 4K UHD Blu-ray of the newly restored Freaked. If you've never seen it before, it will blow your mind. If you're watching it again after a while, it's kind of shocking how shocking it still is. But now that one quick thing before I go, which has absolutely nothing to do spiritually with a project like Freaked. It's The Devil Wears Prada 2. You guys, we got a teaser for the sequel. It's coming up. And the teaser is just, we see Miranda's feet walking, presumably through the halls of runway. She walks into an elevator. We pan up. We're on Meryl. We are on the devil herself, perhaps from Prada, perhaps not. But as it pans up there, who do we see next to her but Andy? We see Andy. I think Meryl says to her, "It took you long enough?" Like, they're in the elevator. You know, I'm guessing they're back at Runway together. Maybe they're rivals. Maybe she's at a different publication. We're going to find out. I haven't read a synopsis. I'm here for the vibes and I'm here for the beauty. But what I got to say, this is so important, guys. For me, this sequel hinges on. It's extraneous, and yet it is still so crucial that, one, like, detail Adrian Grenier not be, like, that boyfriend is out. That Nate is out. I don't need that legacy character. We have been moved on for decades. These are not star-crossed lovers. These are not people fated for one another. No. There is no wish fulfillment that puts Nate in the path of Andy. And what I need because of that, the thing I need because of that, even if it's just one conversation, just a couple lines exchanged, I have to hear someone totally fucking rinse the character of Nate. I need to hear Andy talk about, like, God, remember when I was so obsessed with that guy when I had my internship here, and he was actually just like a total loser. He had this super demanding job as like a haute cuisine chef, and he's telling me I'm not around enough. What am I, 24? And I have this hugely consequential internship for one of those powerful people in publishing, the field of which I'm going to pursue for my career. And and it's later at the outset, like, I just need to put in a year here, and then I have entree into anywhere else. And yet this bitch, who she is dating, makes it her goddamn problem that she has a demanding job in where? New York City. I'm sorry, is she the only one with a demanding job? That's what you moved to New York City for. As a burnt out, run that candle at both ends 20-something, you go there for no work-life balance. You go there to party till dawn and then get it together like the rubber band elasticy young person you are and charge into the office the next day and do your job. The fact that there is a significant portion of The Devil Wears Prada spent with both her shit-ass boyfriend and her loser friends who are totally leeching off of her runway swag, and yet they are, like, taking Nate's side. Like, you're different, you've changed, like, Nate's right, you should be nicer to him. Screw all of y'all. Move back to Sheboygan. Move back to Enterprise, Oregon, I guess, where you can have a slower pace of life and everyone can be home by 5 p.m. for dinner, if they're not out working the fields doing agriculture, a job that will work them 16 hours a day. Anyway, neither here nor there. I need a conversation in The Devil Wears Prada acknowledging the most difficult part to reconcile of that movie, that, like, the part of it that is aged like fish in the sun, which is, we were supposed to be against Andy in the point of view of that movie, in the context of her selfish ass boyfriend. And that is not true. That is not true. Like, tell me the real villain of that movie. That real villain is Nate. Miranda, at least she knows what she wants, and she is pushing all others out of the way to achieve that, and she's striving for greatness. This fucking loser, Nate, is striving to make his girlfriend a grilled cheese to give his life meaning, and is bitter that she's not home early enough to eat it. Screw you. Listen, don't miss an anniversary. That's not cool. But the notion that in, like, what is it, like, it's a couple months, she's changed so much, and y'all can't get caught up with the fact that she is going to put this work in now to pay exponential dividends later. I need Andy to say, remember when all those losers were bringing me down? And I made some choices I'm not proud of. I kind of became somebody a little bit that I'm not happy about. But I absolutely stand by my decision every day to have worked at Runway. It was the right thing. It was the best thing for me. And all of these people were just being selfish because they wanted something from me. They didn't want to enrich our relationships together. They just wanted to suck the life out of me in one way or the other. And that's not friendship. That's not romance. That's not intimacy. That's not caring for another person. That's not looking out for them. That's just those bitches being self-serving. So that's what I need. That's what I need from The Devil Wears Prada 2. Literally, just a couple lines where Andy affirms to us that she knows those people were wrong and that Nate is a bum. And he was a bum. And geez, God, please do not put Adrian Grenier in this movie in front of me like that. Yeah, that's my extended freak out about The Devil Wears Prada 2 and where my head's at on it. I'm excited. Anne Hathaway just keeps looking better and better. Thank God for that. And here's to The Devil Wears Prada 2, showing us who the real villain was all along. And that's it. That's our show. You can keep up with us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us wherever you are listening right now to get a new episode in your feed as it drops. You can follow us to find out more on Instagram at Feeling Seen Pod. We are also on Blue Sky. Just search Feeling Seen or Jorcru, Jorcru, which is also where you can find me on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. Our producer is Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows,
supported directly by you.